Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back once more to the ASRC Formula 1 Championship, this time at the one and only Monaco Grand Prix. What a beautiful place to visit in this championship. Of course, Formula 1 isn't the same without Monaco. Bit about the circuit, of course, for those that don't know. Of course, I'm surprised if you don't, but first held in 1929. That's a lot of history behind this place, and considered one of the three in the Triple Crown. Of course, the other two being the Indy 500 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And many a famous person have won this race. Most notably, of course, Ayrton Senna. He holds the record for 6 wins here around this beautiful place. Schumacher comes home second place with 5 times, and then Graham Hill 5 times also on his record. He's actually the only driver ever to get the Triple Crown. For those of you that don't know, a smart piece of history for you there. McLaren, of course, hold the most wins here at the circuit, but of course today we are here to watch the ASRC Championship take place. Of course, round 4 of the championship. Before we get going on that though, let's have a quick look at the standings for you to see who is in the lead of this championship. And looking at the standings, with 41 points we have Vladislav Zenkov in the Ferrari. He has had a really good start to the season and actually took victory in the last round, which was at the Portimao Grand Prix. So really a shame we missed that one, but it turned out to be a really nice race indeed. Williams holds second place with Nick Stefanenko behind the wheel. 38 points, are very tight up the top end for you. Certainly those two will be looking to qualify well here this afternoon. And then in P3 is the second of the Ferraris, which is Albert Maslenikov. 36 points on the board. So as you can see already, on that top 3 slots, very close with the points, and no doubt Monaco will be a very vital success story for whoever comes out on top. Elliot Simpson in P4 for Aston Martin, unfortunately retired at Portugal or Portimao, so he is sitting on 30 points. And then we have Anton Skirichenko, Red Bull's first driver, in P5 with 30 points as well, so it's tied P4 for you there. Alfa Romeo with Chris behind the wheel, P6 with 25 points, and then Paul Pulsic in the second of the Alfa Romeos in P7. Igor Artemov, a very fast driver, but somehow runs into a few issues here and there for the Haas, leaves him in P8 with 22 points on the board. Andrei Fomichev unfortunately had that really nasty accident in Bahrain, but since then consistent points for the Haas driver, leading him in P9, nice position to be in. And then Carlos Frau in the Alpine rounding out your top 10. So as previously mentioned, last time we went to Portimao, Zenkov took victory, Stefanenko took second, and then Skirichenko in the Red Bull took third place. So very good showing for both those drivers, and it was actually Skirichenko's best result in the season so far for Red Bull, so really strong showing for them. Zenkov took the fastest lap, so he gets that extra bonus point. But moving on to today's race then, as mentioned, we are at the Monaco Grand Prix. There's 3.337 kilometres of splendid road to be had here. And of course, everyone that knows anything about Formula 1 and the Monaco Grand Prix will understand that qualifying is absolutely everything, as the teams are currently out on the circuit now doing their best to finalise and get ready for the race ahead. It's very technical, very twisty and turny, and not a lot of overtaking opportunities available here for those looking to do so. We'll try and get a flying lap with one of the gentlemen here this afternoon. We're currently following the number 6 around the circuit at the moment. It's one of the Alfa Romeos. A few new names also with us as the championship continues. So some of the teams deciding to mix things up as we head into the latter of the season. And we're just going to follow him around and get a good eye view of Monaco Grand Prix before we go into the qualifying. So going on board with Stan now as he comes across the start-finishing line. Coming down into the infamous turn 1. Potential overtaking opportunity here as he comes down into the first chicane. So you can cut the curbing on the inside. Make sure you don't go across the pit exit, of course. And then up the hill, charging as best you can, carrying that speed through. And then through turns 3 and also Casino Corner. Very bumpy, a lot of ride height available here as the cars elevate up and down before slamming on the anchors for the S's. This is from turns 5 all the way through to turn 7. Not a lot of flexibility here. You have to slow the cars right down just in nick of time to make the apexes and then catapult the car out of the corner underneath the famous tunnel. And this could be a potential braking opportunity to overtake into the Nouvelle chicane. Make sure you maximise potential. Oh, and he's actually made a bit of a collision there, unfortunately, so we're not going to get that onboard lap that we was looking for. But if he had continued, we would have seen him go through past the swimming pool, of course, with full, very high-speed corner. Not a lot of overtaking opportunities for them there either. And then through Raskas, which is the final section of corners, turn 17, before coming onto the final corner, which will then allow them to accelerate onto the start-finishing line. We're on board with Nick Stefanenko at the moment as he goes through the tunnel, over the hill, and then down into the braking zone here into Sector 3. Here he comes through the S's, past the pool. Very nasty accidents in history there, including one of Max Verstappen, and that was fairly recent, of course. And then coming through the final corner, across the start-finishing line as he passed Raskas there. And only one opportunity for DRS, which is going to be very limited indeed. So whatever overtaking is going to be done here this afternoon is going to be very vital to open up that DRS. That split second may just be the difference between taking or losing a position. So now we're just waiting for the practice session to finally conclude itself. Only a few seconds left before we go into the qualifying stage for this evening's race. And of course, if you are enjoying the action or if you're looking forward to this Grand Prix, let us know by hitting that thumbs up button. And if you want to find out more about this league, all the details are in the description below and you can find them there. Now, Zenkov in the Ferrari, the number 5, currently holds the fastest lap here in practice, which is a 1:06.7. And then it's a fairly large gap before we see the Alfa Romeo number 6 in second place. Carlos Frau, the Alpine, doing fairly well. He's sitting in third with a 1:07.6 for now. Of course, we all know that that doesn't really count for anything until we go into the qualifying session and we see those lap times really starting to come in. So some of the cars starting to come across the start-finishing line. Just that one final time before we go over to the next session. We have 20 minutes finally on the clock for you, ladies and gents, and the qualifying session has officially begun. So 10 cars on the grid at the moment, looking to do the impossible, which is to claim that front row seat, which is so vital to controlling the start of this race. One of the McLarens getting an early start, going to the end of pit lane, and hoping to get the nice clear air. And that is, of course, Dylan Tarberton coming up the hill at great speed already, so really not wasting any time and looking to get that nice early lap time. So all the cars seem to be on the options at the moment, or the fastest soft tyre compounds. And into the tunnel he goes. So a lot of teams already out on circuit as well. So we have Stefanenko and the Williams already driving around Fomichev in the 77, and also Zenkov in the Ferrari alongside his teammate, also out and about early doors, trying to get a few laps in, just in case something goes wrong. So Dylan Tarboton for McLaren now starting his first flying lap, the first of this session. Nicely through turn 1, coming up the hill now. Through Casino quite nicely. Oh, a bit too much on the rear, accelerating too soon, and that's cost him a lot of damage. The front wing's completely been torn off the front end of that McLaren. That's the end of his early opportunities to set a nice lap time. Carlos Frau arrives on scene, sees the debris and avoids it. But it's now going to be up to him to set one of the first lap times here. Very slow through turn 6. A lot of time starting to come in. Zenkov's just gone purple in sector 1 for the Ferrari. The Alfa Romeo of Sokolovsky currently sitting in P3, 19.4, his personal best through sector 1, which is the third fastest that we've got on our sheets at the moment. And here comes Frau in the Alpine, coming across the start finishing line to start his flying lap. Aggressively going over the first curve for turn 1. And puffs of smoke coming from that left front tyre as he tries to get it slowed down for turns 3 and Casio triangle. Or sorry, Casio corner. Gorgeous sound coming from the Alpine as it slows down for the hairpins. And it's a 19.2 coming through the second sector. So it's a very modest time coming from the 17. All on the edge right there as he nearly scrapes the wall. The Spaniard really starting to push the limits of that car. And coming into Raskas now. Last opportunity to find some time. Bit more of a seizure from those soft compound tyres, and across the start finishing line he comes. What's it going to be for Carlos Frau? And it looks like his time has been deleted by race control. Yes, it has. That cut into turn 1 was enough to invalidate his lap time, so he's going to have to do all of that hard work again, unfortunately. In the meantime, Zenkov, as it comes into the final corner, currently sitting on pole position with a 106.7. So Ferrari really starting to show dominance at the early stages of qualifying. We have 15 minutes left, so plenty more laps to be had. But as we said, Zenkov really does have a confident feel for this circuit at this moment. Stands Sokolovsky currently sitting in second place for Alfa Romeo, 108.2 on the board. Coming through sector 3, can he find a few more attempts? He's currently going fairly slow in the first 2 sectors, unfortunately, not personal bests. Yeah, not an improvement there for Sokolovsky, unfortunately. In the meantime, Zenkov back in pit lane for Ferrari. Lopez Garcia really on a fire at the moment as well as he comes down the hill. He's currently sitting in third place with a 108.3, and unfortunately now a spin as he touches the inside barrier. Very easily done, unfortunately, where they think they've got the car turned in The back end just clips the inside barrier and spins the car full 180, but doesn't seem to be too much damage to the Alpine at the moment, so it may be able to continue. But decides to go back into pit lane. Now, of course, the man that is in second place in the championship standings, Nick Stefanenko, needs to find some extra time here. He's currently off pace compared to the Ferrari's Maslenikov, now taking pole position with a 106.7. So both Ferraris now on the front row here at Monaco. Now Stefanenko setting times in Sector 1, 18.8, which is not his personal best, but is still on pace, but only just. Oh, a mistake there coming through the S's as well. So on the way down the hill, just missed the apex of turn 7, and that's going to cost him dearly. And it's a 31.8, so still not beating his personal best, unfortunately. But that's can he bring it together in Sector 3, though? A bit of oversteer coming from the Williams as he comes across the start-finishing line. It is a slight improvement there. All came together in Sector 3 is a 108.7, able to find that extra 2 tenths to move him up into P5 ahead of the McLaren. He's still going for an extra lap here, so let's see if he can rectify those mistakes. At least 0.3 seconds if he can fix those and bring the lap together as a whole. No, he's deciding to abandon that completely then. So, yeah, Nick Stefanenko allowing the traffic to go by. And Zenkov is back out for Ferrari. His teammate leads the way, offering that slipstream. And these two guys have been working together all season so far. They just charge ahead of the rest of the grid. A few make mistakes every now and again. But so far this season, they've really been able to bounce off one another performance-wise, sharing each other's setups, no doubt. And it's shown as they are winning the championship at this moment in time. Starting on the medium compound tyres now for Zenkov. He's only 0.04 of a second off pole position. But now puts his foot down across the start finishing line. Here comes the first flying lap. Oh, very close to the barrier. Just carried that bit too much speed into the first apex. Nearly went into the barrier, but nicely held. But that will affect his speed up the hill. Through Casino, nicely done, and it's a personal best for Sector 1. Now this is actually very crucial for the guys. If they can actually set faster lap times on the mediums, then that's going to put them in a really strong position for the start of the Grand Prix. Coming through the tunnel, Sector 2 times coming in soon. It was a bit messy getting back under power. And it's a personal best through Sector 2 as well. Oh, into the sausage curb on the inside of the chicane. Into the barrier he goes as well. That's going to cost a bit of damage to the front end of the Ferrari. Will it be enough to Sector personal best though? Coming across the start finishing line. In the meantime, Maslenikov goes faster. 106.4. That's 0.3 seconds over Zenkov, his teammate. He does improve slightly, but only by a fraction. 106.746 for the second Ferrari. He's really trying to find every ounce of performance from this car at the moment, coming into the chicanes, or the hairpins. As Lenikov's made a mistake as well, his teammates, so that will offer a slight slipstream as they come through the tunnel. As Lenikov getting out of the way of his teammate. So it's green for Sector 1 for Zenkov. All grey for Sector 2 though, so he's lost a bit of time. Bit of a tank slapper going on there. Touched the barrier with that front right tyre. And decides to come back into pit lane. So unfortunately coming out of that one, just didn't bring it together in Sector 2. So decides to save the tyres. Not worth it at this stage. Sitting in third place we have Alfa Romeo with the number 6 car. Still being driven by Sokolovsky. 107.761. That's a huge advantage for the Ferrari team moving into the race. So pretty much the rest of the grid seems to be fighting over the remnants of the final podium position. Garcia in the 53 Alpine is sitting in P4, 1.7 seconds off pole position. And then we have the first McLaren, Dylan Tarboton, in P5, 1.8 seconds with a 1:08.2 on the board for you. So green Sector 1. So can he improve for the rest of the lap? It'd be his personal best if he does. 18.6 through Sector 1. That's a very quick time indeed. Personal best through Sector 2. 31.166. Oh, gets messy through the chicane. Can he hold it together enough going through Raskas? He drifts it through. Splendid stuff from the Alpine driver as he tries to get it all back together for the sprint to the finishing line. Is it an improvement here for the Alpine? Yes, it is. 107.569. That's a new podium position there for Lopez Garcia. What a way to bring the end of qualifying together. Really good stuff. That, of course, means Alfa Romeo are going to be knocked off of that front row or second row seat, starting in P4. Still going around is Stefanenko in the Williams. He's, of course, representing the team here this evening. Quite a few of the teams haven't got second cars with us for the Monaco Grand Prix. Of course, Richard Wanders, usually the co-star for the team. And a great aerial shot of the town section of Monaco Grand Prix circuit here. Of course, we're missing the two Mercedes as well, Lucas Bierwald and Sedimentov as well. They're not with us this afternoon. So quite a few teams, and also, of course, both the Aston Martins, Callum Lloyd, Elliott Simpson. They're absent from this great race as well. You'd think, being Monaco Grand Prix, they would really want to be racing this afternoon. But, of course, real life comes first in the sim racing world. And no doubt we're still going to get plenty of action here with the guys that we've got with us today as well. So Stefanenko does improve on his personal best, 108.3 as he charges up the hill once more. Oh, big seizure on the right hand side of the car as he tries to get it slowed down for turn 3. Into the hairpins. Through Portier and into the tunnel. It's a slow Sector 1 here for the Williams. Once more down the hill. Ooh, going onto the curb. That unsettled the car. And that's yet more time lost here for Stefanenko as he tries to find a way into the top 5. Yes, another grey sector. So no improvements here. Can he find a bit more pace through Raskas and Sector 3 as a whole? No, decides to bail on that particular run. Unfortunate, good effort there from the Williams. Just wasn't able to bring it together on that final flying lap though. Carlos Frau, the Spaniard, still holding on to P5 at this moment in time. 108.2 is his personal best. He's got to find an extra 6/10 if he's going to move up the order and demote Alfa Romeo from that 4th place start. Up the hill we go. Let's see what the Spaniard has got this time by it. Bit of puff of smoke as he goes into turn 3. Into the hairpins. Nicely done. Let's have a look at the times. It's a grey sector 1, unfortunately, for the Alpine driver. And through the hotel, through the tunnel, he goes. And again, once you go onto that curbing on the right-hand side, it really does unsettle these cars. And seeing a lot of seizures on the right-hand side. But it is a personal best here for the 17. Carlos really pushing into Raskas. Puffs of smoke coming from all 4 corners as he tries to get it slowed down for the final corner. Really aggressively over the curb he goes, accelerating to the line. Is it going to be improvement though? Yes, it is. Really hammered it home in sector 2. It was a slow sector 3, but that's enough to get out into P5 with a 107.7 there. Also on a really good lap is Maslenikov. He's currently set sector 1 in purple, so he's on a personal best at the moment. Coming down into the tunnel, is he going to be enough to demote his teammate Zenkov from glory today, which is a 106.159 is the time to beat. These two starting to really test one another on the limits of the circuit. And purple sector 2, this is going to be a new fastest lap for the Ferrari team. And still they're showing their dominance over the Grand Prix circuit of Monaco and accelerating to the line. Really nice exit from the final corner, and it is going to be a new fastest lap of 105.7. That is incredible stuff there, ladies and gents. Maslenikov in the number 4 Ferrari really starting to widen the gap in his teammate, and that's got to be a bit of a kick to Zenkov there to know that his teammate has such raw pace here at this track. So Zenkov now coming up the hill. Is he able to respond in any way to Maslenikov and his lap time? Oh, he's run over the front wing coming out of Casino Corner. And it's yes, not a best sector 1, unfortunately. 18.4 is the time that's on the board at the moment, so that's not going to be enough to find that extra 0.5 seconds required to claim pole position. So now coming into the final laps here as qualifying is concluded. Got 5 seconds left on the board. And quite a few guys are still currently out setting lap times. Zenkov currently grey through sector 1. No personal best coming through at this moment in time. Stefanenko in the Williams on his last attempt. He's gone green for sector 1. So this is potentially a good moment here for the Williams driver. Stefanenko coming through sector 2 as he comes down the hill and into the tunnel. Let's have a look at the times as they come through. Into the tunnel he goes. One of the Alpines letting him go by on the inside. And down the hill. Avoid the curbing. Nicely done. Stefanenko on a nice lap here. Let's Into green sector 2 as well, right when it matters. The Williams driver bringing it together as best he can. Through Raskas. Nicely done, nice and tight. No puffs of smoke coming from this car as it opens up the DRS one final time across the start finishing line. Is it going to be a move up the order? Yes, it does. Nick Stefanenko goes third fastest in the Williams, right behind the two Ferraris. That has demoted Carlos Frau in those last closing moments from that final podium position. So Nick Stefanenko, hats off to him. He really has brought it together on that final flying lap. You could not make that up. That must be a great feeling there for the driver. And unfortunately, that is all we've got time for in the qualifying session for the Monaco Grand Prix. So that is your starting order, ladies and gents. Let's have a quick look before we move over to the warm-up phase and wait for the drivers to line up for the race itself. So then the Monaco Grand Prix, ladies and gents. What a way to start this evening's race, round 4 of the series. Let's have a quick look at the starting order, as already mentioned, and have a quick look about who is starting where. Of course, for those of you who've been watching, you know that both the Ferraris have dominated this evening's race. Maslenikov leads his teammate Vladislav Zenkov and Nick Stefanenko in with that last-minute flying lap. Then Carlos Frau in 4th place, followed by Pablo Garcia for the Alpine, and then we have the first of the Alfa Romeos in P6. Moving down the order is the first, or the Mercedes of Alfred Pene, and then Marcin Sokolovsky in the second of the Alfa Romeos for you. Only 10 cars with us for this evening, unfortunately, before we go over to the race session. But from what we've just seen there, all of the cars are within at least a few tenths of one another, bar the Ferraris who lead the way at the front. I think we're in for a real treat here this evening with some of the racing about to unfold. So of course we are now in the warm-up session. It's going to be 15 minutes before we go over to the race, and of course that's when the teams will line up for a really long, challenging race, probably one of the hardest experiences of their Formula 1 careers. Monaco is renowned for being one of the most challenging circuits, and of course for those of you that watch it in the real world will know exactly why. It's extremely narrow, hardly any overtaking opportunities, and of course you've got barriers left, right and centre at some of the high speed corners here in Monaco. Certainly not for the faint-hearted, of course, especially coming up the hill here. A lot of high barriers on either side, and not really much to slow them down either. So you've got to be very mindful of that going into the race. And of course the strategy going to be unfolding here is going to be key, especially if you can get the overcut or the undercut going, because it's all about that track position, because once you are ahead it's very difficult for anyone behind to overtake. So it looks like most of the teams are going for the soft compound for the start of the race. And most likely you're going to see a one-stop strategy, as Monaco isn't the fastest of circuits, and it's all about making sure your car stays ahead, of course, as already mentioned. So I'll be surprised if we saw potentially some two-stop strategies, but soft compound and the mediums appear to be the tyre choice of today. So let's start with some of the interviews for this evening, and we're going to try and grab some of the drivers and have a quick word with them before they go into the race, get their viewpoints of what's gone on so far this evening and see if they are up to the task. And the first to join us is Nick Stefanenko. So for the Williams, what a final lap he was able to put in there. Just walk us through what was going through your mind for that final lap and what it took for you to pull that together.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, it was a hell of a lap out from nowhere, and of course I have nothing in my mind during this lap to make it fast.
Oh yeah, of course, because you're focusing so much. So how much, because we saw you through the session, you seem to be struggling to get within the top 5. You had the Alpines ahead as well as the Alfa Romeos. You know, what was that final feeling? You know, what changed in that final lap to bring all that time together at once?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna guess it's probably because I've concentrated for the last lap. I calculated everything for perfect timings. I just started my lap just under the finish line of the session, and then I'm just not thinking about anything except my lap, except every corner. So I think it's just about concentration.
And we've been mentioning on the live stream how crucial qualifying is here. Do you think this is going to put you in a good stead going forward into the race? And you know, what's your strategy to keep the guys behind you during the race itself?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't expect that I will be so high after the qualifying session, but now I need to think what what I will do in the race over those fastest guys. I think they had a amazing pace in the fuel tank, but yeah, let's see in the race what can I do.
What do you think is Ferrari's secret? I mean, they've really hammered on and gone ahead of everyone else on the grid this afternoon. Do you think they've got something up their sleeve, or is there any ideas to how they're going so fast compared to the rest of the grid?
Yeah, I think there is no secret. They are both good drivers, great drivers. They've had amazing, amazing laps. So I think they just too good for us. Just just like Monaco race in 207,
Yeah.
where Alonso and Hamilton beat everyone. They are both just was better than anyone else. So I think we have the same situation today, and I think only some bit of the luck will help me to uh, get to the higher than third place.
So tell us about the overall championship. Is that playing on your mind at all this afternoon? Sitting in second place behind Zenkov in the standings. And of course, I believe you're the only Williams here as well. So is there anything going through your mind on that standpoint?
I think I have a lot of luck at the previous races, and I just get this third place with some luck for sure. And today I think it's only about surviving after the 18 laps. So
Yeah.
I'm just try to bring as much points as possible and finish the race. That's it.
And just final question before you go. How are the tyres holding up here at Monaco Grand Prix? Do you think it's going to be a one-stop strategy, or are you looking at two?
You know, uh, surprisingly, softs are not so good in this race. I don't know because after 5 or 6 laps, uh, I'm starting to struggling with my tires. So I don't know, to be honest, but I think there will be a lot of pit stops. I don't think that anyone will manage to finish with only one stop. So I think it's only about make some short stint with medium tires,
Yeah.
and every single stint you will go for the softs because that's the best option for this race for sure.
Interesting insight into the race then. Well, you know, thank you, Nick, for joining us in the commentary box and, you know, sharing in that moment for your third place here this afternoon. I wish you all the best of luck going into the race, and maybe see you on the podium at the end.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a nice one too.
Thanks, Nick. So that was Stefanenko, driver for Williams, of course. What a last-minute flying lap he put in to claim third place here this evening at Monaco Grand Prix. The two Ferraris ahead, and Carlos Frau behind in the Alfa Romeo. So certainly he's going to be looking to jump early on to maybe deny the Williams of that podium place. But of course he came second place at Portimao 2 weeks ago. So he's in a very strong position for the championship overall. And no doubt he'll be looking to expand that. And as already mentioned, he's the only Williams here for the team, so he is carrying all those points on his shoulders for now until maybe potentially the next few rounds when his teammate finally reappears. So let's see if anyone else wants to have a quick word with this before we go over to the race session. We've got 7 minutes remaining in the warm-up before we go over to the race itself. And then we'll see all of these drivers try to claim and tame the Monaco Grand Prix. Just following one of the Alpines around the circuit at the moment, which is Pablo Garcia. And he's just trying to find a bit more pace. Oh, really starts to apply that right foot coming through the hairpins there. And that just sent the back end round. So she's trying to find where the limit is. Now this man is going to be the one to look out for Stefanenko. Carlos Ferrao starting alongside in the Alpine. And a lot of the cars currently out just trying to find a bit more grip as best they can. Dylan Tarberton in the McLaren starting in P9, or he's currently sitting in P9, sorry, my apologies. Do love that orange paint scheme that they've got for this year. It's one of my favourite looking cars, has to be said, alongside the Williams as well, which is very nicely painted. Gotta love those blue stripes that they've got on the shark fin, etc., and the back chassis. So on board the McLaren then, just getting his, or finding his bearings going into this evening's race. Now, this race is all going to be about survival. There's a lot of danger areas or danger zones. And pretty much everywhere on this circuit can be a bad day very quickly. And coming down into the hairpin, you've got to be careful not to carry too much speed into those. You could actually end up stuck facing the wall with no way to get out of that situation. So a small mistake such as that could end your race entirely. And of course the braking zone for the chicane as well at the bottom of the hill, alongside the famous docks of Monaco. And through the chicane, plenty of moment in real life where things have gone wrong here. And Rascasse, again, another place where you could easily just overshoot the corner, end up facing the barrier, and not be able to reverse and carry on with the race at all. So this is really one of the most challenging places on earth to go motor racing. And that's why it has the prestigious, one of the Triple Crown titles. Andrei Fomichev coming down into the chicanes and hairpins off sector 2. So we have just got 2 to 3 minutes remaining before we go into the race, and we're joined by Vladislav Zenkov for the Ferrari team. What a display you guys have put in this evening. It's been absolutely dominant from you and your teammate Maslenikov. Just walk us through what you're feeling right now, and what's it like to take home the front row here at Monaco Grand Prix?
Yeah, hello, thank you. It's a very good feeling actually, because Monaco is a very challenging circuit,
Yeah.
and of course, we are very proud to make such a run in qualifying. But I must say what the race will be long, 78 laps, and everything could happen. So I couldn't already bet for us because everything can happen, and we try to make it as best as possible. In case of Albert have 5 place grid penalty also, so it's still will be a very tough one, but it's very good that we have a nice pace here, so we can work on consistent.
Yeah, so it's a very long race, as you mentioned, 70 plus laps of this Grand Prix circuit. What's the secret to getting to the end of a race such as this? How do you make it to the end in one piece? Not only, the car not being damaged, but on a podium as well.
You just need to have a stable setup as best as you can, and also just have a cold head. In other simulators and in other championships, I had an experience of multiple wins in Monaco, same as finishing.
Yeah.
And the key is that you just need to have a car which you're trusting, and just have a cold head, even if the situation looking bad for you.
So you're currently leading the championship. One more question before you go, because we are coming up to cut time. So you're leading the championship by just a few points over Stefanenko, and then it's your teammate Maslenikov in third place. Are there going to be any team orders here this afternoon, or are you just going to race each other and see who brings home the crown here for Monaco?
No team orders here in Ferrari, because actually we already fought very hard in Imola for the win, and there were no team orders, and it will continue. We will continue in this case. No team orders. We are both wanting to win, but we are both respecting each other and helping each other.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be working for you so far this season. Very strong showing from you guys so far. And look, wish best of luck for the race, guys. Hopefully we'll see a
Thank you.
Ferrari sitting on that podium at the end of this evening.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks very much, and good luck with the race. So that was Vladislav Zenkov, of course, starting alongside his teammate Maslenikov in the Ferrari. So very strong showing from them this evening. As already mentioned, a whole 1.5 seconds over Nick Stefanenko, who sits in third in the Williams, who himself is in a really strong position moving forward into this evening's race. He's currently second on the standings, so all to play for here going forward into this race, and maybe we'll see some changes on the driver standings. So now we wait until the session changes over, and we have 78 laps of Monaco Grand Prix. What a great place to race this is. And we'll see who out of everyone here is going to be able to lift that crown, or at least one of the triple crowns. So the checker flag, of course, has been waved by the marshals already. Just waiting for the server to finally change over. And of course, interesting to hear from Williams that the strategy going forward for this evening is likely to be a two-stop strategy. The soft compound tyres wearing down fairly quickly as compared to the mediums. So I think they were saying that they're going to have a short session on the softs, followed by the mediums, playing out a large portion of this race. So it seems that we've gone back into a warm-up session. We're experiencing a small delay. I believe there's going to be, another driver joining the session. So we're just going to let them to finally join us and enjoy the race as well. In the meantime, of course, let's have a quick touch on the standings if we can, just to get an idea of who is where going forward into this evening's race. So let's touch on those just slightly. So we have Vladislav Zenkov in first place with 41 points on the board. And he is victorious as of 2 weeks ago at Portimao, so a very strong showing for the Ferrari driver. Followed by Nick Stefanenko. He also had his best result 2 weeks ago at Portimao for Williams, and that was enough to plant him in second place with 38 points on the board. And then Maslenikov for the second of the Ferraris. He won at San Marino, but unfortunately, accident at Portimao means he currently sits in third, 36 points on the board for them. Elliot Simpson for the Aston Martin sits in P4. He sadly didn't finish at Portimao and isn't here for Monaco either, so likely to go down the order after this particular race for Elliot Simpson. But he currently, at the moment, sits on the board with 30 points, and he is tied in that position with Anton Skirichenko for Red Bull. He had his best result 2 weeks ago at Portimao, and that is tied fourth place for him. Alfa Romeo sit in sixth place. Chris behind the wheel. He won at Bahrain. Amazing race. Actually, it's on our channel if you have missed it. But unfortunately, 2 retirements at San Marino and Portimao means that he is currently sitting all the way down the order by some margin. And then we have Paul Polsic for the second of the Alfa Romeos, currently sitting in P7 with 23 points on the board. Igor Artemov for Haas in P8 with 22 points, and he is tied with his teammate in that position with Andrei Fomichev. Carlos Frau in the Alpine, looking strong here this afternoon. 10 points on the board after he missed out on the first 2 rounds, but looking to move up into the top 10. And then we have Pablo Garcia for the Alpine car as well. Missed the first round. A few points scored at San Marino and Portimao, and no doubt going to score some this evening as well at Monaco. Dylan Tarberton in the McLaren in P12. A nice showing at Bahrain, and then a suspension failure at San Marino Grand Prix meant that he comes home in P12. And then Callum Lloyd for the Aston Martin suffered a major accident at Bahrain, and then San Marino took home some points for the Aston Martin team. Rest of the order is lining up now as we're just waiting for the driver to join us, and we can finally get this race underway. Just following Andrei Fomichev around the circuit at the moment as we just try and find this extra driver that's joining us, and then once he is in the server we will move on to the race session for you guys. A bit of a love tap onto the barrier there for Fomichev, and the same goes for Raskas as well, so even the pit entry line. So decides to deposit his front wing in pit lane before coming to a stop and getting that repaired. Fingers crossed it's not going to be a sight of things to come. And we are now moving on to the race session, finally at last, ladies and gents. So cars being asked to line up on the grid. They'll just be making their final checks, making sure the fuel is at the correct levels, making sure that their strategy has been finalised and that it's been agreed upon from the team. And of course they will do a warm-up lap followed by a standing start, the traditional way here at Formula 1. And we'll wait for them to finally get going before we go through the starting grid with you. Those that are just joining us, we've had a splendid qualifying session. If you have just missed it, hit the rewind button on the live stream here on YouTube or Twitch, wherever you're watching, and have a good look at that. Ferrari dominating the start of this race here this evening. Nick Stefanenko in the Williams coming home a solid third place on the final flying lap here at the Monaco Grand Prix. And everyone else lining up behind. Carlos Frau starting in P4. And I do believe we may be missing someone at this moment in time. Yes, we are. We're missing one of the Ferraris, which is Maslenikov. He is not with us at the moment, so currently get down to 9 starters at present. That's going to be a real hit for the Ferrari team, because they were starting alongside one another, of course, 1-2. And of course promotes Nick Stefanenko onto the front row here for the start. And we are finally starting our warm-up lap, and let's just run through the starting order with you, ladies and gents, those that are just joining this wonderful race. So as already mentioned, it is Zenkov for the Ferrari going up into first place. Maslenikov not with us for the start, unfortunately. Nick Stefanenko in the Williams coming home in second. Carlos Frey will start third in the Alpine. Garcia for the second of the Alpines will start P4. The Alfa Romeo starting P5, and then Andrei Fomichev starting P6, and McLaren in P7. First the Mercedes, Alfred Penne in P8, and then we'll have the last of the Alfa Romeos in P9. Of course, they all go down by 1. That is the starting order from qualifying. Just remember that Maslenikov is no longer with us, unfortunately. So this is a great opportunity for the guys to warm up the tyres as best they can. Moving forward into the race, of course, it's going to be a very long race indeed. 78 laps here at the Monaco Grand Prix to be done before they get to raise that virtual trophy. And what a way to come home this evening with one of those. It's going to really help the overall standings for the guys here. And before we go into the final few rounds of the ASRC Formula 1 Championship. Now as they line up, if you are interested in the league at all, you can find all the details in the description below. You can still join, I believe, as we are missing a few cars off the grid, as you can see. And I'm sure they'll be happy to have you join the series and have some racing action. So the teams now lining up one final time, getting ready for the race. And all cars now successfully lined up and ready to go. Zenkov and Ferrari will be leading the charge down into turn 1. And the lights are building up, and we are racing. Zenkov gets off to a good start, as does Stefanenko. In the meantime, Garcia in the Alpine gets past his teammate, which is Carlos Frau, down into turn 1. He himself gets a bit of a tap from Maslenikov, who's able to join in the last few moments here. Oh no, sorry, he's starting in a P. He's got a 5-place grid penalty, isn't he? So we are missing someone, but it is not one of the Ferraris. So that's a complete mess that I've made of that. He did have a grid penalty at the start of this race, so both Ferraris present, and Maslenikov off a charge already up into P4 ahead of one of the Alpines, and he split the two of them. Zenkov still leading the way, the McLarens and also the Mercedes, with Penne rounding up the back end of the grid through the tunnel for the first time for the Formula 1 teams. And it looks like already that Carlos Frau losing some ground to Maslenikov ahead. He's going to be looking to overtake Garcia, which will be onto the podium positions there. In the meantime, Zenkov up to 1.7 a lead over Stefanenko already as they start to build some temperature in the tyres. On board with Maslenikov, coming down into the final corner, accelerating out for the first time. That's one lap completed of 78 here at Monaco Grand Prix. Braking heavily down into turn 1, up the hill. So good exit here from Maslenikov. Light tap onto the barrier on the left-hand side. That's not what you want to see at this stage of the race. And in the meantime, Lopez Garcia losing some ground to Stefanenko in the Williams. His rear view mirror full of red in the form of that Ferrari. Down the inside he goes, looking for an opening. Down into the hairpin. Looks down the inside. It's closed by the Alpine though. And that's going to cost him a bit of time now. He's got to do all of that work again. His teammate, though, in the car behind, is starting to close that gap back up. Heavy braking down into the chicane. So far, nobody is running into any problems. I'll touch wood on that because, of course, we don't want to see anyone have issues at this stage of the race. Look how quickly Maslenikov has caught back up to Garcia in the Alpine. They really have got a strong pace here at this particular circuit. Looking at the inside into turn 1. Thinks better of it, though. Zenkov, in the meantime, setting the fastest lap up the road with a 1:10.5. That is the time to beat. And of course, in this championship, you do get an extra bonus point for holding the fastest lap. Nice aerial shot as we go through the hairpins in Sector 2. The Alpine still holding back Maslenikov as best he can for the time being. Carlos Frau trying his best to assist his teammate, not able to do so. The gap up to 1.6 seconds as they come through the tunnel. Through Raskas, with a puff of smoke coming from the Alpine ahead. Accelerating nicely onto the start finish. The DRS will be open. Only a small window of opportunity here for Maslenikov. Not able to take it this time by. 0.4 seconds separating these two for third place. Oh, bit of a tap. The front wing was definitely touching the rear soft compound tyre there of Garcia. Gap up to 1.1 seconds coming through the S's past the dockyard. Carlos Frau starting to close the gap as well as these two fight on. Through Raskas, all three of them go. In the meantime, in the background, we have a good fight going on for P6 between the Alfa Romeo and also Andrei Fomichev in the Haas. Lopez Garcia still holding on to third place though. Maslenikov trying every trick in the book. Of course, we've said this already. Monaco almost impossible to pass here if you don't get it right. This time going defensive on the inside line goes the Alpine. Into the hairpins once more. The Ferrari goes deep into the corner, tries to look for the cutback, but there's just no room to get an overtake done here. On board with Maslenikov looking down to overtake on the run down towards the docks. Here comes the overtake maneuver. He's going to have the inside line for the chicane. He's done it. He's actually got past Maslenikov down into third. Both Alpines demoted off those podium positions, and Lopez Garcia now has a rear view mirror full of his teammate Carlos Frau. So what will be done here? Will there be team orders? Of course, looking forward. Maslenikov already 0.5 seconds up the order. Lopez touches the inside barrier at Raskas. That slowed them down considerably. Already 1.8 seconds coming across the start finishing line as we start lap 6. Now we have a train of cars coming up the hill. Garcia and Alpine leading the way. The Haas, Fomichev holding off Dylan Tarbotin, coming into Sector 2. Of course, it's looking ahead as well at the back end of that Alfa Romeo as we go once more into the hairpins. On board with the McLaren then. Senses an opportunity but decides better of it. Putting on the brakes now. And this is going to be about the tactical approach to this race. Not a lot of opportunities exist here, but there are plenty on the tactical side of things. You could potentially go for the undercut or even the overcut, depending on how they play their cards. And this train of cars right now coming across the start-finishing line, all within DRS, as they come down into turn 1 once more. Now Garcia in the Alpines, currently sitting in P4, is getting away from his teammate Carlos. The Spaniard holding back the rest of the field, and this will be a strong points haul for the team if they're able to hold this together. And so far this season, they haven't got a lot of points between them, unfortunately. They're currently sitting down in 14th and 15th respectively, only scoring 3 points in total between them. And Sokolovsky in the Alfa Romeo behind also has to worry about Fomichev in the Haas. So it's not all plain sailing for them either. This train of 5 cars. Oh, big seizure there from Carlos. The Spaniard locking up his front left wheel. And those soft compound tyres don't last too long here at Monaco, I'm told. As Maslenikov now starting to apply the pressure to the front runners. A 109.4, the new fastest lap here for this evening. Once more down to the hairpin, you can see the red Ferrari of Maslenikov pulling away from this centre pack. Already up to 8 seconds and chasing down Nick Stefanenko in the Williams, who currently sits in second, of course. And he's got to play his cards very well if he's going to come home in that position to hold up that piece of silverware. And Maslenikov will be looking to make Ferrari come home with a 1-2, that's for sure. The two Alpines, a bit of breathing space for them here, though. Carlos Frau closing up to his teammate Lopez. Oh, and here comes the Alfa Romeo. Sokolovsky really gained some ground in the latter stage of that particular lap, as they all navigate through turn 1 once more. On board with Sokolovsky coming through the tunnel. 0.7 seconds to Carlos Frau, who once again seizes those right-hand tyres. Those soft compounds are going to start causing some vibration problems. A lot of flat spots will start to appear. Through Raskas they go, really closed up the gap there. Needs to be careful to not lose too much time, and he gets a very poor exit out of the final corner, and this might give an opportunity to the McLaren. Dylan Tarbotin behind, who himself has overtaken Fomichev in the Haas. So McLaren up by 1 now into P7. We missed that overtake, unfortunately. And looking down the inside as we come into Sector 2. Very close indeed to the back end of the Alfa Romeo. Nearly touched the rear compound tyres. A bit of a moment there for Penne in the Mercedes. Nicely saved there by the Mercedes driver. Just got a bit of a tank slapper going as he tried to put the power back down. Oh, and a mistake from Fomichev in the Haas. Oh, careful of the rejoin as he nearly takes out Dylan in the McLaren. That was a very close moment indeed. Allows him to go back by again, but they almost touched. This is great driving from all involved here. Fomichev's rejoin was a bit scary moment there for McLaren, but all ended well. Luckily, no one was harmed. And the fight continues as we once more go up the hill. Bit of a moment there for the Alfa Romeo. Sokolovsky doing everything he can to stay attached to the back ends of the Alpines. Things are starting to spice up fairly quickly between these guys. And also, bear in mind, we've got a fight for second place starting to emerge as well. Very scary place to make an overtaking manoeuvre there. Dylan really trying to fit the McLaren into the smallest of spaces, and needs to make sure he gets a really clean exit onto the start finishing straight, which he does. Nice move here. Here comes the McLaren. Sokolovsky on the inside line for turn 1. The DRS will be open for them. Oh, and it's a big incident. A big incident. The McLaren gets tapped, sent into the barrier. And it's going to be pretty much the end of the race there for McLaren, and clash between Sokolovsky and Dylan Tarberton, and that takes them both out of this race. Yeah, a DNF for McLaren. Unfortunately, no way to get out of that particular spot. No reverse gears on these Formula 1 cars. And in the meantime, Sokolovsky able to continue for the Alfa Romeo, sitting in P6, but with how much damage, it is not known. Let's move forward to the battle for second place. Nick Stefanenko holding off Maslenikov in the Ferrari. This is the only thing standing in the way of Ferrari becoming a 1-2 scenario. DRS open, down the start finishing straight. We've seen just a lap ago what happens between some of the other teams, and both get through turn 1 safely. Through Casino. 0.5 seconds between these guys. And of course, we're getting to that stage of the race now where they will be looking at the tyre wear, monitoring the strategy and what's going on around them, and whether or not it's time to come into the pits now. Two cars have already gone into the pit lane. That is Andrei Fomichev and also the Alfa Romeo of Sokolovsky. So you can see that on your live timing there. So both cars moving down the order to 7th and 8th. Fomichev in the Haas goes ahead. But the winner of all of this, of course, is Penne in the Mercedes, who's gained 3 positions in the last few laps. Nice exit out the final corner there for Stefanenko. He's starting to really up the ante. The pace starting to appear from that Williams. On board with Maslenikov as we come through Casino corner. And into the hairpin. Now Zenkov is still leading this race by 6.5 seconds for Ferrari. So it's not the largest of gaps here so far in this race after completing 14 to 15 laps. So Stefanenko finding some really good pace out of the Williams at this stage of the race. Nearly goes into the barrier as they go past the dockyard. And it's again, Maslenikov really can't bring that final corners together. Stefanenko driving off into the distance and is safe for at least another lap. That's the prime overtaking opportunity there. Coming down into turn 1, racing up the hill though. He's closed that gap back down once again, applying to the pressure to the Williams driver. Stefanenko though, keeping his cool, making sure he's not making any mistakes. Great racing from both these drivers though. Still early stage of this Grand Prix. And we have the first of the Alpines inside pit lane as well. Pablo Garcia coming in for the first service of this evening's Grand Prix. So once back up to speed, our two leading cars go by. Fastest laps still held by Maslenikov, both on exactly the same laps here. Nick Stefanenko, last lap was a 1:10.827. And Maslenikov was 8:16. So literally 100th of a second between these two drivers. Incredible stuff. And Pablo Garcia rejoins in the Alpine in P7. He's the third car to service this early on. Maslenikov makes a minor error coming into, or on the exit of Portier. That's cost him a bit of time. 1.5 seconds now, the gap to Stefanenko. And that must be a bit of a relief. And here comes Maslenikov now into the pit lane. The Ferrari going for the undercut then. Stefanenko in the meantime staying out, as is Zenkov as well. Formachev also in pit lane. Another mistake for the Haas driver. That's going to cost him dearly. A few points going to be lost here as Lopez Garcia goes on through. And here comes the Alfa Romeo. Sokolovsky on a charge as he comes back onto his second stint. Looks like he's on the hard compound at this stage as well. So yeah, the white compound tyre, which is the hardest available. And looking to go to the end, perhaps, potentially, after completing 17 laps. He did have that incident earlier on, so maybe trying to rectify that and play the strategic game by going onto that particular compound of tyre. In the meantime, Maslenikov back out on circuit. You find him exiting Portier, and under the tunnel he goes. In the meantime, Nick Stefanenko coming into Raskas, still going strong and trying to chase down Zenkov, who himself is in pit lane. Williams leads the Monaco Grand Prix at this stage after completing 18 laps. Zenkov back up and running once again. His teammate in the meantime coming through the final corners here, and they're both going to rejoin the circuit at pretty much the same time. Whereas his teammate coming into turn 1, the gap was at least 5 to 6 seconds last time we saw them, and that's at least knocked off a half of that time coming up the hill. The gap now is up to 3 seconds. So very good undercut manoeuvre there from Maslenikov. You can see the effect it's had on his teammate. That's at least cut the lead in half that he had previously. Is that going to have the same intended effect on Stefanenko though? That is the question. Now Stefanenko knows that this in-lap, whenever he's deciding to come in, we don't actually know, but the in-lap needs to be perfect. He can't make any mistakes whatsoever. Still going strong though in the Williams. He's going for another lap to complete lap 18. And now let's have a look at the lap times as they become available for you, ladies and gents. We've just had a new fastest lap. Purple sector there for Maslenikov as he comes across the start finishing line. To see what times we have on the board. And it says that Maslenikov's lap has been invalidated, that particular time by. However, his teammate Zenkov did a 1:12.8. Now, it's worth noting Maslenikov still on the soft compound tyre, so he's going for the fast option. In fact, Zenkov also on the red compound, soft compound tyre too. So they're also going for the quicker option. But of course, that will mean that they will need to do a further stop at some point. But yeah, the gap down to 0.7 seconds now. Oh, bit of a tap on the inside wall from Maslenikov. That chicane is very tricky indeed. A simple mistake can spin the car around entirely. This is going to be important data here for Williams as they come across the start finishing line. Are they going to be in a position to stay out for a bit longer? Their last lap time was 1:11 for the leader, Stefanenko. The Ferrari's new fastest laps coming in hot and fast. 1:08.5 is the new time to beat. Maslenikov at least 1/10 quicker than his teammate Zenkov. So this gap that Williams have, the advantage that they're holding on to, is going to be fast disappearing at this stage. Now, we were told by the Ferrari teammate Zenkov that there are no team orders between these guys going into the remainder of the race. They really want to push one another and help one another get to the end, but they still want to have good racing action too. And of course, being so strong here this afternoon, it looks like they are going to be firmly in control of this race. Stefanenko is still choosing to go deep on this particular set of compound tyres though, as he comes down into turn 1, last lap 1:10.5. Now the Ferraris have slowed down just a bit, 1:09.7 and 5 for both of these guys, but that gap is still closing down, an entire second chopped off the lead of Nick Stefanenko. Now, will the Williams come in on this particular lap? No, he's actually staying out. This is incredible from Stefanenko, really going against the grain at the moment. He's deciding to really push this particular set as far as he can into this race. 22 laps completed on the soft compound tyre. That is a really outstanding achievement. It is starting to get slightly sloppy though. 1:11.3 last time by for Stefanenko. Maslenikov 1:10.1, so still that gap coming down now. So the two Ferraris have actually exchanged positions. Maslenikov now leads ahead of Zenkov. And the gap down to 20 seconds. So over the last few laps, it's pretty much been 1 second per lap. Oh, bit of a touch on the front bumper there. That front wing could have sustained damage from that minor contact. We do not know. Nick Stefanenko still staying out on the track at the moment. 1:11. Last lap time. Maslenikov coming across the start finishing line now it is a 1:10.1, so yet another second off the leader of this race. Of course, what we need to find out is how well these tyres are going to hold on in the latter stages of the race, because we know that the Ferraris are on new tyres, so we're expecting them to go really fast at this stage of the race. However, if the Williams can hold on to that kind of pace for this duration of time, they're going to be changing over to that soft compound very, very well. And whether or not they're going to be going for a one-stop strategy, still yet to be seen. But I wouldn't put it past them at this moment in time. Coming on to the end of lap 23 now is our leader, Stefanenko, in the Williams. Gap down to 16 seconds. So has he made a mistake on that last lap? No, it's a 1:10.9. And it's a 1:09.9 for Maslenikov. Still pretty much exactly 1 second. Bar 1/100th of a second between these two. So that lead now down to 18 seconds as we come through the hairpins of Sector 2. This is really impressive stuff here from Stefanenko, really holding on to the lead of this race. Those compound tyres must be absolutely shredded at this stage, but still he keeps going. And we do have a safety car out at the moment, so clearly an incident on track somewhere. And this is perfect for Nick Stefanenko. Oh, and it's actually Panay in the Mercedes. And the Williams has been collected as well. Nick Stefanenko is involved in this incident. So something really drastic has happened there. Potentially with one of the back markers. Panay in the Mercedes missing a front and rear wing. And a lot of the teams deciding to come into pit lane at this opportune moment in time. And both the Ferraris now will lead behind the safety car. And I think that was the Haas of Fomichev behind. No, it was actually the Alfa Romeo. My apologies. Sokolovsky currently sitting in P7 for the time being as the grid is cleared. Nick Stefanenko rejoins the order, albeit in third place now after that incident with the Mercedes. Now, we don't actually know what's happened between those two. All we know is that the Mercedes had an incident and that deployed the safety car. Whether or not the Williams arrived on scene too late and got collected or tried to take avoiding action, that is the question. Well, now that we've got an opportunity to have a look, yeah, Penne, the Mercedes, has retired from the race after completing 20 laps here at the Monaco Grand Prix. So let's have a quick look at the mid-race results for you, ladies and gents. Under safety car conditions, Maslenikov leads for Ferrari ahead of his teammate Zenkov, who was leading for most of the race this evening, but unfortunately that has come to its end. Maslenikov firmly in control after 25 laps. In third place, Nick Stefanenko, running to that issue with the front wing, but it all seems to be repaired now, finds himself in third. And then Carlos Frau leading the Alpines ahead of his teammate, which is Pablo Garcia, who himself sits in P5. Then we have Sokolovsky in the first of the Alfa Romeos in P6. Penne in the Mercedes unfortunately retiring, so he will be moving down in a short moment's time. And then Andrei Fomichev in the Haas in 8th place. And that is your current running order. Now this is a very important moment of this motor race. Nick Stefanenko needs to navigate his way around the Alfa Romeo, which is going to be a lap down, so it's going to be blue flag situation. And Fomichev, actually they're being allowed to unlap themselves. So the final lap of the race, yep. So both Fomichev and Sokolovsky go past the safety car. And we are still waiting for some of the other cars to catch back up with the order. And so on screen we currently have 4th cars all the way down to Carlos Frau in the first of the Alpines. In the meantime, Pablo Garcia coming through Casino himself and catching up to the back end of the grid. Now the safety car will be going in very shortly, and it'll be down to Maslenikov to restart the race on behalf of the guys here. One more lap to go with the safety car though. That allows the lapped cars to reattach themselves to the back end of the grid. Also, these guys, Fomichev and Sokolovsky is back in pit lane after missing the front wing again on his Alfa Romeo. So really not a good afternoon for the team after running into problem after problem. Of course, he did unlap himself. Was given the opportunity to catch back up to the back end of the order. But once again into the barrier he goes. Maslenikov then leading the race at this moment in time. Currently holds the fastest lap, which is a 1:08. And now warming up the tyres, still on the soft compound, so expect a flying starter here from both Ferraris. The safety car is back in, as we get back to racing conditions, and Maslenikov straight onto the throttle as soon as he's clear of the apex of the final corner. Zenkov in the meantime struggling to hold off the Williams in the background. Nick Stefanenko has already got past the lap down cars, which will be the Haas. Up to the top of the hill then, Zenkov already starting to close down that gap to his teammate Maslenikov, now 1 second ahead, so just within the DRS zone. Stefanenko though now onto the medium compound tyres, which will hopefully potentially get him to the end of this race. Yet to be seen. We'll have to keep an eye on the strategy here from Williams. Through the tunnel for the first time, 50 laps remaining as the race gets back underway. Carlos Frau, the Spaniard, starting to close up to the Williams though, so potentially an opportunity starting to emerge here. This would be an interesting battle to watch as well, because Frau is on the medium compound tyre, same as the Williams ahead. In the meantime, the two Ferraris are on the soft compound, so they're expected to widen the distance between these guys. Bit of wheel spin there coming from the back end of the Alpine though, as he comes out of the hairpin. And through Raskas, the Williams goes into the barrier. Nick Stefanenko pushing the Williams to the limits, has made contact on the exit of Raskas. That's cost him dearly. This podium position was in his grasp, and after a strong result at Portimao 2 weeks ago, we thought he was going to bring that together, but unfortunately into the barrier, and that's going to give Alpine their first ever podium position at this stage of the Grand Prix. If they can hold this together, of course, it's not over till the fat lady sings, as they say. But he's in a very strong position now. Nick Stefanenko will be kicking himself for that mistake. Zenkov in the meantime 8 seconds adrift of Maslenikov, his teammate, and 8 seconds ahead of the Alpine. And Nick Stefanenko rejoins the race in 4th place. Here comes Pablo Garcia. Up the hill he comes, 3.3 seconds behind the Williams driver after those essential repairs. And Maslenikov starting to extend that gap and putting down some very lightning quick pace. 107.8, the new fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. On board with Garcia for the Alpine. Spaniard looking on to the back end of the Williams. That gap is starting to extend though. It's 4.4 seconds coming over the start finishing line. So Stefanenko is extending that gap quite nicely. Strong pace coming from him at this stage, so those repairs haven't affected his performance in any way, but he has now gone onto the soft compound tyres. So Williams changing their approach to this race now after those repairs. Now the gap up to 3rd place is a tall order. It's 51 seconds in total before he gets that podium position back. Carlos Frau will have control for quite some time and knows full well that he's got a comfortable lead over the rest of the grid, being on the medium compound tyres at an early stage too. And now on board with Carlos Frau as he comes through the hairpin. So coming over the line to complete lap 34 now. And sitting comfortably in third place for Alpine at this stage of the race. In the meantime, he's being harassed by, I believe that's Fomichev in the Haas, which is a lap down car. He's currently sitting in P6. But he'll be looking to unlap himself and potentially fight for some podiums further on in this Grand Prix. Through the tunnel and onto the down section. Nice exit there from the Novell chicane. Holds it together quite nicely, and of course in this situation for Fomichev and the Haas team, do they apply pressure to Carlos, or do they just simply follow and hope for the best? Because if they try to overtake and it doesn't go as planned, there will be heavy penalties to pay, I'm sure. But they are still staying with the Alpine driver and looking quite racy as well. Faster lap times by at least 3 or 4 tenths last time by the start finishing line. So times are starting to come down towards the 110s on average now. So we've got some blue times coming in, especially from the Williams here. Stefanenko starting to improve on his personal best. In fact, last time by the start finishing line was his fastest lap so far here at Monaco. And that gap down to 45 seconds now to Carlos Frau, the Alpine, sitting in third. So he's starting to push the Williams with everything he's got. Finding time where earlier it wasn't available. And of course, we've seen him make that mistake earlier on as he tried to stay attached to the back end of the Ferraris. And that quickly unraveled. So he's got to be very careful here not to over push that car and respect the limits of the circuit, of course. So back with Zenkov and the two Ferraris then. They are once again close together. 1.3 seconds between these two as they come down into the chicane. And seem to be experiencing some problems with the internet. So apologies in advance for that. Hopefully it irons itself out. I believe that's a bit more stable now. But yeah, Zenkov 1.5 seconds behind his teammate Maslen. Maslenikov really starting to widen the gap now to his teammate. 1.3 seconds coming through the third sector now. So it seems to be firmly in control once again of this race. 39 laps to go as they come across the start finishing line. We're really starting to get into the second half of this Grand Prix now. In the meantime, Carlos is under pressure from Stefanenko, 30 seconds. So he's knocked off an incredible 20 seconds over the course of the last 10 to 20 laps or so in this Grand Prix. But will it be enough? That is the question, to close up the gap before we get to the checkered flag. There's a very tall order indeed from any driver. And the two Ferraris entering Sector 2. Nice exit from both out of Portier, and as already mentioned in this live stream, they've said that there are going to be no team orders between these two if push comes to shove. So fingers crossed, if these guys start to close the gap between one another, they will indeed begin to fight for that overall victory for the team. Of course, it is a risky business, as if it doesn't go too well for them, then it can have the opposite effect and take them both out of the race. So they've got to be very careful and cautious of that fact. And both coming into the pits at exactly the same time as well. So that's the second set of compound tyres finished for these guys. And both straight back underway, both still staying on the soft compound tyre. So very interesting tactic there from Zenkov. He's going for the long run, potentially going for another stop, because I believe the rules still state that you need to have at least 2 different compound types of the, to get to the end and to get to the checker flag. So has Zenkov actually made a mistake here, or are my eyes playing tricks on me? That is the question. Now, the last round of pit stop has brought in Carlos Frau into the mix in the Alpine. As he comes into the final corner now. So he's actually now dropping back to 2.5 seconds behind, unfortunately. So losing a bit of pace here. And still we see Fomichev in P6 behind in the Haas of the Spaniard. So he's not found an opportunity to overtake just as of yet. And of course the Alpine on the medium compound tyres, looking to go long in the middle of this Grand Prix. Coming through Raskas, nice exit onto the final corner. And of course the main threat for Carlos Frau at this moment in time will be Nick Stefanenko, who is on a real charge for Williams, 22 seconds. And that is a really good achievement considering the damage that was caused to that particular car just a few moments ago. Now Maslenikov has opted for the medium compound tyres at this stage of the race. Most likely go to the end if he can, but we'll see how that plays out for them as we now come to the midway point of lap 43. Now Zenkov is still to go on to the medium compound, but he will be looking to take the lead of the race, it seems, at this stage. He's starting to apply a bit of pressure, 0.3 seconds between the two Ferraris, and a penalty for Sokolovsky in the Alfa Romeo, who sits in P6 or P7. Sorry, my apologies. So, although he's got a penalty, that's not really going to affect the overall outcome of the race because he is currently running in last place at the moment. And here comes Zenkov now, both running up the hill. The Ferraris almost side by side. Not a lot of room available. Zenkov sending it down the inside. Slams on the anchors before it gets too tight. And Maslenikov must have been really opting for the inside line as much as he could. Blocks the door as quickly as he can. And Zenkov waiting for another opportunity. Could you imagine the development of the race if both the Ferraris decided to take one another out of competition? That will be a dream come true for the Alpines and Nick Stefanenko and the Williams. The standings are extremely tight up at the top end. In fact, only 5 points between the two Ferrari drivers at the moment. On board with Zenkov. Against his charge up the hill, firmly attached to the back end of his teammates Ferrari. Through Casino he goes, looking for just a small opening to utilise. And a lot of wheel spin there coming from Zenkov, not able to get the power down as well as his teammate on that particular run by it. So still following the two Ferraris as they come through Sector 2. The gap still within 1 second. As they come across the complete lap 48 now. So those medium compound tyres are working sufficiently there for Maslenikov to hold off his teammate for the time being. 0.4 seconds as they charge once more up the hill. Once again, great aerial shot of Sector 2 as they make their way through the hairpins. Oh, bit of mistake there from Maslenikov. Maybe an opportunity here for his teammate to slip on by. As they come down across the start finishing line, the DRS is open. He looks to the outside line. Here comes the undercut though. Bit more acceleration coming up the hill here from Zenkov. Is it going to be enough to get past his teammate though? No, that is not going to be enough. Through Casino they go. And it's not the opportunity that he was waiting for. Have to put it to these guys. They really are starting to apply pressure to one another. Both want to win the Monaco Grand Prix. You can tell Zenkov looking left and right. He's looking for an opportunity here. Nearly taps the back end of his teammate's car as he tries to find a gap. Just anything available here on the tight, narrow streets of Monaco. He's got the opportunity to take the lead of this race. 30 laps remaining. Oh, sorry, 28 laps remaining, my apologies. And he's closer than ever this time by. Zenkov opens up that rear wing. The DRS giving him that extra few bit more horsepower required. And he actually looks like he went to the barrier slightly there, in fact. I think there might have been a slight bit of glitch but it doesn't look damaged. He's coming back up the hill. The attack is once more on, but just no room to overtake. Coming through turns 3 in Casino, just no opportunities there for Zenkov to utilise. Now a bit of a gap has widened now, 0.7 seconds as they come through past the dockyard. Zenkov just trying to misplace Maslenikov as best as he can. Goes onto the outside line in hopes his teammate will take the bait and providing him with an opening on the run up the hill, but it's just not working out for him at this moment in time. Maslenikov really defending with everything he's got. Now one to keep an eye out on as well is the battle for third place, because the Spaniard in the Alpine, Carlos Frau, is struggling to hold off Nick Stefanenko in the Williams. The gap is already down to 7.5 seconds with plenty of laps to go. And the last laps from both of them were 1:11, and then Nick is on 1:09s. So really strong pace from the Williams driver at this stage of the race. Zenkov once again trying to sell the dummy to Maslenikov, but not working. Some great onboard camera shots of the two Ferraris battling out here at Monaco Grand Prix. Coming into the final stages of this race now. And we actually have a blue flag situation coming up, one of the Alpines. That is Lopez Garcia. Gets out of the way on the exit of Raskas. Very nicely done indeed. And allows these guys to fight on. Carlos Frau for the Alpine now in pit lane. Nick Stefanenko goes through for Williams. Back to the battle for the lead though. The two Ferraris still going strong. So Maslenikov still holding on to the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:07.8. His teammate needs an entire second off with a 1:08 as those fuel loads start to dwindle. And this would be the perfect time to go out on a flying lap. Nick Stefanenko into pit lane for Williams. In the meantime, Carlos Frau in the Alpine coming around through to Rasgas. Williams is back underway once again, coming to the exit of pit lane. Will it be enough though to hold off the Alpine? This would be an incredible undercut if he's able to do it, and he has. He's actually come out ahead of the Alpine. Oh, big mistake for Stefanenko. Coming out of the pit lane, just got a bit too sideways, and that's going to cost him dearly. Yeah, no front wing on the Williams now, and that was going to be turning out to be a really good story for the team. I mean, what a recovery drive he has made in order to get to where he is now, but just a bit too much confidence on those cold tyres, and that sent him into the barrier, and he's going to be losing out on that position now. Potentially a overtake coming up for Lopez Garcia in the sister Alpine machine. And back to the two fighting Ferraris. On board with Zenkov. And he's coming into pit lane for the final time here for Ferrari from second place. In the meantime, Stefanenko in the Williams has also come into pit lane. Essential repairs underway. Looks like he's actually missing a front wheel on that car too, so that's going to be a big job for the engineers. In the meantime, Pablo Garcia coming into pit lane for Alpine. Gets on with the final change for this race for the Alpine driver. 57 laps to go. And strangely, Nick Stefanenko unable to conduct any repairs here for Williams. So a bit strange that that is being released back onto track in that kind of state. That's very dangerous indeed. Got rubbing against the barrier already. He's not able to steer that machine with confidence. And looks like he's going to retire the car. What an unfortunate end to the Williams day. Maslenikov now into pit lane. The final time here for Forza Ferrari. Back onto the soft compound tyres. In the meantime, Zenkov also on the red compound still. And coming out of pit lane, where is his teammate going to be? There he is. And slots back into second place, exactly where they started. This is going to be a sprint to the finishing line now. 20 laps to go here at the Monaco Grand Prix, the fourth round of the ASRC Championship. Big moment here for Zenkov as he comes up the hill. He's got an opportunity to overtake the lead from Maslenikov, his teammate, holding on for dear life as he goes up the hill into turn 3 in Casino Corner. Just about holding on to the lead of the race now. Over the brow of the hill they go. Into the Novell chicane. Bit of puff of smoke coming from Zenkov's Ferrari there. And this could be an opportunity for them to overtake. DRS is open, 0.2 seconds, going for the outside line. Cuts short the chicane at turn 1. Here comes the run up the hill. Zenkov looking left and right. An opportunity may be opened as Maslenikov sticks the Ferrari in the middle of the road. Denies his teammate the opening he's looking for as they come down into the hairpin. Great stuff between these two drivers now. Fighting for the victory here at the Monaco Grand Prix. And it is, of course, the closing stages. So these cars are going to be at their lightest. They're going to be extremely responsive and agile. So it's all down to driving skill and talent. Who can hold it together to get to the checkered flag. Of course, the problem for Zenkov is that he will gradually start to suffer from understeer, being behind and so close to his teammate. 0.7 seconds exiting the final corner onto the start finishing line. The DRS is once again opened. This time the gap isn't as wide, but he gets a nice clean run through the apex of turn 1. And up the hill they go. Oh, and a mistake there from Zenkov, running a bit deep into turn 5. Oh, it's all unwinding now for Zenkov, the Ferrari driver, making a few mistakes this lap, and he seems to have lost already 2 seconds to Maslenikov ahead. Just got to be careful, don't make any mistakes. This is going to be a fantastic 1-2 for Ferrari if they can hold it together just a while longer. But yeah, just make sure that you don't make that vital mistake. Maslenikov, new fastest lap now from his sister teammate, 106.8. That is an incredible time to be setting under race conditions. And they are pretty much in a world of their own at this stage of the race, unfortunately. So it means good for them. Ferrari must be really in a good place right now. Mentally, that is. As they come through the tunnel once again, gap down to 1.7 seconds. Zenkov's going to be looking to make up that lost ground. Sideways moment through Raskas. Oh, and a bit of a touch on the wall as well for good measure. So you can tell that this guy's really trying to push with everything he's got right now. All cards on the table. It's do or die. He's either going to win the Monaco Grand Prix or he's going to crash this Ferrari trying. The sector times coming in from these two are identical right now. There is barely hundreds of a seconds between the two of them. They are matching each other's pace. Maslenikov with the upper hand, of course. That gap up to 2.5 seconds. and it's a 2:07.6 from Maslenikov. It's a 1:08 from Zenkov. So that final sector is where he seems to be falling down ever so slightly. It's going to be a good day for Alpine as well, as they currently hold 3rd and 4th. Coming through Casino. Really strong performance from both the Alpine cars at this stage. Carlos Frau, the Spaniard, really pushing the car as well. Nice position to come home in as he rounds out the remaining podium positions. Of course, Nick Stefanenko gave it his all to try and catch back up after his earlier mistake, but sadly retiring after failing to repair the Williams. Obviously, the damage too far gone to rectify. Now the two Ferraris still going at it. 2.5 seconds between the two of them. The last lap they were pretty much on par with one another. In fact, Zenkov was a 10th quicker last time by the checkered flag. Once again, lap times identical to one another. 1:1:08.4s. It really is wonderful to watch these two guys slug it out with one another. The two Ferraris dominating this weekend. 2.2 seconds between the two of them. Sector times coming in, and they are identical. Oh, we've got a DNF for Zenkov. A DNF for Vladislav Zenkov. I believe that's going to be internet related. But what a development here. That, you could not make that up. That's sim racing for you. I mean, we've had internet problems with the server on our end as well, but I believe that's personal internet connection having a bit of a dump, not the server. But Zenkov, yeah, he's dropped from the server. That's a huge development there for the Ferrari team. They deserve that 1-2 victory. That is not fair on them whatsoever. As we come to the closing stages of this race too, with 11 laps to go. And now Carlos Frau and Alpine find themselves in a very strong position. Second place for the Spanish team. And Lopez Garcia will soon find himself overtaking the Ferrari that is now parked inside the pit lane. Very unfortunate way to end this particular race for Zenkov. He was giving it everything he had to stay attached to the back end of Maslenikov, his teammate there. In the meantime, though, Maslenikov has actually backed off and is now setting 109s, of course, knowing full well that he has such a commanding lead over the Alpines. He will be looking now to nursing the car to the checkered flag. Now Zenkov is back in the server. Now, will he be able to get that car back underway? Yes, he does. That is fantastic. The Ferrari exiting the pit lane. There's going to be a very angry Ferrari driver right now. He's got a few laps before the checkered flag is dropped. 9 laps to go before we end this evening's Grand Prix. And the next car up the line will be Sokolovsky. And I think that's just too tall of an order. He's just lost too much time, unfortunately. Even Zenkov, although extremely fast, can't find 63 seconds in 9 laps. But I guess the important thing for them this afternoon is that he will still be bringing home some form of points. And of course, Stefanenko will be losing his second place in the championship standings after his retirement here. And that means that the championship standings will read 1-2 for Ferrari, I believe. Maslenikov still in the lead of this race, of course, for Ferrari. Although, with everything that's happened this evening, I wouldn't be surprised if something else were to happen before we get to the checkered flag. Let's hope not, though. Let's touch some wood. And pray that nothing else happens to the incredible efforts made by Ferrari here this evening. And Zenkov in pit lane. So changing over to the soft compound tyre. He did come back out on mediums, so he's potentially going for the fastest lap here. He's got to beat 106.8, which is his teammate's time, just to scrape home that extra point. He knows he's not going to be able to catch anyone else, so he's going to wait for a nice clear opening here and punch it as fast as he can. His personal fastest lap is a 107.8, but of course this is the best time to do it. The cars are super light, only a few laps of fuel left. And he will be able to turn up the engine mode to max in order to get that fastest lap. Let's see if he can do it though. It's a tall order, 106.8 the time to beat. He's got to find an extra 1 second whole as a whole if he's able to claim that extra point. This is going to the qualifying mode for him then. Let's have a look at these sector times as they come through. Target time 106.896 for Zenkov. Personal best here for Sector 1, which is a 18.7. So it's all looking good so far. Not purple though, so he won't be beating his teammates' time. We have a blue flag situation up the road as well. Whether or not that will become a problem here for Zenkov, yet to be seen. Down the hill he goes. Exited Novell chicane quite nicely. Sector times coming through. Is it going to be purple though? That is the question. Personal best. It's 0.07 of a second slower than Maslenikov. He's got to find 0.2 seconds through the final chicane. Across the start finishing line, what's it going to be? So 107.178. So not fast enough here from Zenkov. Tries again. The Haas is in the way. And this is going to be for, not for position. However, Sokolovsky now within 0.4 seconds here. So it could be an opportunity. So Sokolovsky running into problems at the end of the Grand Prix after 73 laps of completion. 4 seconds, that is all that stands between these two. Fomichev and the Haas stands between the two of them. And we now have a fight between these two. Ooh, big moment there for Zenkov. And he's coming into pit lane for some reason. Not too sure why. Maybe going for another set of tyres because he's just flat spotted those ones. But yeah, Sokolovsky trying to chase down Fomichev. That's my apologies. I thought it was Zenkov who was catching up to Sokolovsky. It's not the case. It is Fomichev who's being caught by the Alfa Romeo driver for 5th place. So let's have a quick look at these guys then. So Sokolovsky setting his personal best, which is a 109.2 as we come into the final few laps here. He is on the soft compound tyre and already making up some nice ground here in the final stages. 2.5 seconds between them. Oh, big mistake there from Sokolovsky coming down into Sector 2. Gap down to 1.5 seconds. This is a really strong push from Alfa Romeo. And just 2 laps remaining as Maslenikov now goes on to the last few remaining laps for Ferrari. And we are now sub 1 second here in the battle for P4. Fomichev holding on for dear life in the Haas. Alfa Romeo starting to apply some pressure in the closing 2 laps. Good opportunity starting to come up here. Through the tunnel they go. Could he maybe get him into the braking zone for the Novell chicane perhaps? Well, has a little peep down the inside. Over the brow of the hill they go. Into the braking zone. both tidy through the apex, a bit aggressive from the Alfa Romeo. And decent point haul up for grabs now. Maslenikov starting the second to last lap. Through Raskas. DRS is open for Sokolovsky. Fomichev got a nice exit out of the final corner though. Not able to close down in good time. 0.4 seconds as they charge once more up the hill. A bit of a mistake there. And Zenkov's done it. Zenkov has the new fastest lap for Ferrari, which is a 106.5. That means that he will get that extra point from this Grand Prix to help his championship standings. Now all eyes on Fomichev and this battle for P4 then. So can the Haas driver hang on to that points? Oh, bit of a tap there on the back wheel. The front wing touching, and there's a big collision between Fomichev and Sokolovsky. He's already got a penalty once for this race, and that was pretty much a push to pass between the two of them on the final lap of this race. And he does let him back, so good sportsmanship there from Sokolovsky. Fomichev going back through for Haas. So that is always good to see. Now, whether or not he's caused a bit of damage to the front wing, he does understeer slightly into the hairpin. He's running out of opportunities though. It's a fairly large gap to Fomichev ahead. And in the meantime though, the Ferrari Maslenikov for Ferrari will claim victory here. Zenkov, his teammate, it was going to be a 1-2, but internet connection problems prevented that from becoming a reality. But what a performance from this guy. Really did bring it all to the table today and takes home the Monaco Grand Prix. Carlos Frau, the Spaniard, come home in second alongside his fellow countryman Lopez Garcia. He still has a few corners to navigate before getting to the checkered flag. And then he will too be joining the podium for Alpine. This is going to be their best result so far this season. What a performance these guys have had. Just kept it consistent, kept it tidy. Nick Stefanenko tried to claim back third place, but run into problems with the Williams. And yes, Lopez Garcia now coming across the start finishing line to finalise the podiums here for Alpine. What a result for these guys. In the meantime, Fomichev and Sokolovsky have already come across the start finishing line in their positions in P4 and 5. And then Zenkov comes home in P6 with the fastest lap, mind you, as well. So what can I say about this race, guys? I mean, it has had a lot of action, that's safe to say. What a way to end the day. Let's have a quick look at the official results for you. We've already just run through them, but let's have a look, have them up on screen as well. So Maslenikov in the Ferrari, 78 laps completed. He laps the entire field in that Forza Ferrari and takes home victory for the Monaco Grand Prix. One of 3 of the Triple Crowns in the world of motorsport. What a day that must be for him. Alpine come home in second and third. Carlos Frau coming home ahead of his teammate Pablo Garcia. And then Andrei Fomichev for the Haas coming home in 4th place. Stan Sokolovsky in the Alfa Romeo put in a really good attempt at taking home P4. A little bit of a tap in the opening run down to the final lap, but had to concede it back to him after making contact with Fomichev, which is very honourable of him. Then Zenkov in P6. What a day he's had. He stayed in second place for the second half of this event, only to get disconnected, but brought it together with the fastest lap, which is a 106.5, and that will at least give him a small boost for that extra championship point going forward. Then unfortunately Nick Stefanenko in the Williams, the last to retire this evening. He also had contact with Alfred Penny from one of the Mercedes drivers, unfortunately, and then Dylan Tarleton, what a collision he had on the run down to turn 1. So unfortunately he had to retire early on in this race. He was going for a really good overtake into turn 1 as well. That's all we've got time for here today. If you have enjoyed the action from ASRC Formula 1, and if you want to join them, find out more about their championship, you can find all the links in the description below, and join the action if you so wish. But from us here in the commentary booth and at Chequered Flag Simsports, we thank you for joining us here this afternoon and this evening. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, then please consider hitting that thumbs up button and also subscribing for further races. That's all from us though. I hope you do enjoy, and we'll see you on the next one. Good night.